Warsaw, a city where the royal court had been well established from the beginning of the 17th century, had to wait for a university for a few hundred years. It did not mean that the higher social classes were not fond of learning. The Polish nobility and magnates, as we know, dominated the country. They preferred to be educated abroad and would go to study at Italian, French, German, and sometimes even English universities. So it seems that those who are really keen on learning, who wanted to build their careers on education, to acquire academic qualifications, did not need a university in Poland. The situation changed in the second half of the 18th century, when Stanisław August Poniatowski came to the throne. In the times of King Stanisław, plans were made to establish a university in Warsaw, to be named Uniwersytet Ponatowiana, after its founder. At some point, there was even a plan to transfer the University of Kraków to Warsaw. This project was never implemented. Poland was partitioned by three powers. Paradoxically, this historical context created favorable conditions for the establishment of a new university. The administration of the Duchy of Warsaw needed new qualified staff. The time of the Duchy of Warsaw was a time of great expectations and intensive social, institutional and political modernization, which was to serve the needs of the Napoleonic war machine. The Duchy of Warsaw was an important element of the great Napoleonic Empire. It had to provide military force, as well as highly qualified military and administrative personnel, and other staff, for example, medical services. In response to such a demand, a few new schools were established. They were soon to become the pillars of the new university. The School of Medicine, of Law and Administration, of Fine Arts were established. They did not aspire to the status of university. Within 2 years, they provided the great Napoleonic army with a reasonably qualified staff. The School of Law. Once more, we have a response to the obvious needs of the state administration. The Warsaw Lyceum was to complement the schools of law and medicine. Formerly, it was a school of secondary education, but with great aspirations of teaching the humanities. We should remember that Warsaw was under the Prussian partition. The Warsaw Lyceum was established by the Prussian authorities, and the operating language was German. But the Polish language and literature were taught in the Lyceum, which was an important contribution towards the creation of the University of Warsaw. The process which eventually led to the establishment of the university lasted for nearly a decade, beginning in 1808. At least two names should be mentioned in addition to Duke Adam Jerzy Czartoryski. Stanisław Kostka-Potocki, who had already held the high position of a kind of prime minister in the Duchy of Warsaw, was appointed Minister for Education and Religious Denominations. And Stanisław Staszic, on the other hand, was a humble priest who had built a great fortune on stock exchange speculation, being a kind of pioneer of stock exchange speculation in Poland. These two successfully exerted pressure on Tsar Alexander, who finally issued the famous decree of 19th of November 1816, by virtue of which the King of Poland and Russian Tsar founded the Royal University of Warsaw. An amazing university campus was built in the heart of a developing and changing city. The campus included such buildings as Kazimierzowski Palace, the Porektorski Building, the old offices of the Government Commission for Religion and Public Education, the Mineralogy Building, the Chemical Building, the Department of Fine Arts, and the Auditorium Pavilion. The Botanical Garden was situated behind them on a slope. A Mass at the Holy Cross Church preceded a solemn inauguration, where the rector, Reverend Wojciech Szwajkowski, spoke about the older Polish universities. According to historians, the inauguration speech demonstrated not only his oratorical skills, but also the far-sightedness of the first rector. It is evident that he was aware that a scientific institution was being created. It was a strange speech because he spoke about the dignity of science and of great discoveries to the professors, hardly any of whom had worked as an academic. In fact, he was not speaking to them. He was speaking to the future, as if he was speaking to us. He had a feeling that the university was to become a real scientific institution.
Powstaje instytucja, która stanie się kiedyś rzeczywiście instytucją naukową.
Despite the reference to the medieval traditions of the university, these were not regarded as an example to follow. Medieval universities are regarded as ecclesiastical institutions, which in itself was an anachronistic element. They were not seen as truly scientific institutions.
Są uznawane za instytucje bardzo mało naukowe.
Sometimes this attempt to differentiate from the medieval universities was quite surprising. When the State Commission for Education presented the university with a design of professors' gowns, the professors rejected it as an ecclesiastical attire associated with the way priests were dressed, but also attire that was totally anachronistic.
To się kojarzy z ubiorem duchownych, ale też jako jakiś taki strój zupełnie nie z tej epoki, tak? I konkluzja, którą
As Professor Będkowski, one of the key figures of the university, concluded, the professors, if they were to enjoy prestige in times dominated by the military spirit, should be wearing uniforms, carry a sword, and possibly have some medals.
To powinien być mundur, szpada i ewentualnie ordery.
No wonder, the reality in which the University of Warsaw was established was totally different from the times in which the Academy of Kraków or Vilnius University had been founded. I think that the fundamental context for the establishment of the University of Warsaw was the program of modernization of the country. The university was not supposed to be a temple of art. It was supposed to supply personnel necessary to carry out the different projects for modernization. The new university had departments of theology, law and administrative sciences, medical sciences, philosophy and sciences, and fine arts. Each of these disciplines was to foster the development of Poland and its institutions. The University of Warsaw was supposed to educate mostly state administration in very different disciplines, and it was organized in such a way. It was not only its structure, but also the curriculum, which was designed to overcome the deficit of professionally trained personnel in many different areas, such as land surveying, geodesy, and civil engineering. These disciplines were very important. Even if we look at the Department of Fine Arts, we will see that sculptors were required to produce statues for the facades of government buildings.
Uczy się rzeźby po to, żeby ktoś te rzeźby na fasadach rządowych budynków mógł je przygotować.
The 5 departments were symbolically represented in the coat of arms in the form of stars surrounding the eagle. In one claw, the eagle holds a palm, symbol of industriousness and diligence, and a laurel symbolizing reward in the other. It was diligence combined with the determination of the professors and of the students which resulted in the impressive development of the University of Warsaw despite the adversities of the time.